Hi, everybody. This is Linda Silverman from Gifted Development Center, and I am here to welcome you and to welcome Jim Delisle, who is our keynote speaker for this wonderful occasion. Jim was going to be the keynote speaker for our 4-day conference in honor of our 40th anniversary, and that hasn't been able to happen because of COVID, but Jim was kind enough to offer to do his panel virtually for all of you. And Jim is my good friend, and I'm happy to introduce him to you. He is the author of Understanding Your Gifted Child from the Inside Out. That was going to be the topic of the live presentation he was going to give us. And Doing Poorly on Purpose, which is a wonderful book on underachievement, and the bestseller with Judy Galbraith, The Gifted Teen Survival Guide. So Jim is Distinguished Professor of Education at Kent State University, Emeritus. He's retired, but he still works with children on a regular basis. And he was doing that before the pandemic. And I know he's working with some kids virtually too. And he is such a good friend to gifted education and to the psychology of the gifted. Jim has always been interested in the social and emotional development of the gifted and the inner world of the gifted. And so I'm delighted to bring you Jim Delisle. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Linda. And I can't tell you how much I am happy to do this today. I've done a lot of things on virtual network via my own students, but we've never done a panel such as this. And it will reach an international audience. So at this particular time, when the world seems smaller and smaller in some ways, I can't think of a better time to do this. And so I thank you. I thank the students for participating. Also, I want to thank Terry Bradley, who was the person. She was all of the students' teachers except for one. I think Jamie did not have the privilege of working with Mrs. Bradley, but she was able to connect with all of you and to get you involved in today's panel. And I'm just thrilled that we're able to make this happen. And the students and I we don't know each other. We just got to meet each other a few minutes ago. But I know that by the end of it, I think we'll feel like we know each other a lot better. And as Dr. Silverman said, I want to give her a shout out because she does run the Gifted Development Center in Denver. And I would say this is our country's premier, I guess, destination, you'd call it, for accurate and essential assessment of gifted kids. So it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of her world, to call her a friend and a colleague. And even though she won't be staying with us the whole time, she wants to watch what's going on, her heart and soul will be with us as we talk today. So thank you very much, Linda, for that. Okay. As Linda mentioned, this was supposed to be a conference that was part of a 4-day conference that brought together people from at least a dozen countries, if not more, to talk about the wholeness of a gifted child, that we're not just concerned about your mind, we're also concerned about your heart. And the whole conference was going to be focused on gifted children, gifted teenagers, gifted adults, and what we could do to enrich all aspects of your life, not just the academic or the intellectual aspects. Of course, that can't happen now just because of the world conditions. But again, we have people from around the world who are listening to you. And my guess is a lot of what they listen to, they will share with other people. So not to put any stress on you or anything like that, but just know that you are not alone in whatever feelings you have today. So, but before we go too far, I need you to introduce yourselves. And ahead of time, I asked you just to, tell us a couple things about yourselves, to tell us your favorite and least favorite word, which sounds like a bizarre thing, but it's kind of fun. And also to choose a piece of music that you really like. And unfortunately, because of copyright, we can't have you play the songs, but to just tell us what that song is and a piece of lyric that you think epitomizes what's going on in the world right now. So would anyone like to start? Jamie, I'm picking you.
Great. Hi, I'm Jamie. My favorite word right now is defenestration, and it's the act of throwing somebody out of a window. So I thought that one was pretty fun. but you know, my favorite word changes daily.
Okay.
And a song that I've been listening to honestly for years, but I feel like has a special place right now, is called Tim Shell by Mumford and Sons. And the word Tim Shell actually is Hebrew and translates to thou mayest. And it's about having choice and choosing to do things in your life, like given the circumstances we're in, what choices will you make? And it's kind of like an open book of where you want to go. And one lyric that really speaks to me is, you are not alone in this, and you are not alone in this. As brothers, you will stand, and we will hold your hand. Yeah.
Beautiful, Jamie. Thank you. What a great start. Who's next?
All right, I can go next. Hi, I'm Bella. I'm a senior, and my favorite word right now is the word zest. I feel like it's a very fun word, and it gives me some good like visual imagery when I think about it. And one song that I've been listening to a lot lately is "Don't Stop" by the band Fleetwood Mac. And I think the lyrics are, I mean, they're pretty simple, but I think they're pretty inspirational because during these hard times, you know, you just have to remind yourself to keep going. So yeah, I think the most memorable lyrics are, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone.
Going back a couple of, well, almost a generation to pick your song.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Thank you. Anant, how about you?
Hi, so I'm Anant, and I'm also a senior this year. I'm planning to study business when I go to college next year. And my favorite word right now is, it's simple, it's absolutely. And I think it has more meaning today because there's not something, and there's most of the things we do, we don't have absolute control over, especially in this time. So it's up to us to find things that we do have control over and make the best of those. One song that I've been listening to for a long time is The Lion Sleeps Tonight. And I get nostalgic when I listen to that song, but my favorite lyric from the song is, the lion sleeps tonight, hush, don't fear, my darling. And I think that applies to today because a lot of us can get scared when we watch the news or listen to other people, but we just got to sleep.
Thank you. Emily.
All right. Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm also a senior. And one of my favorite words is going to be apricity, and it means the feeling of warmth in a cold winter. And I don't know, I really love the feeling of warmth in a cold winter, so I think that really applies, but also just the way the word sounds, like it sounds like April and acidity, so it reminds me of drinking lemonade, which is
What
also
was the
really
word again? Tell me the word
apricity.
again. I missed it. Say it again.
Apricity.
Apricity. Okay.
Yeah. And so it also reminds me of drinking lemonade, even though that's not what the word means. And a song that I really love, it's actually a Mandarin song, but it's called Guangdian. And that literally translates to light of spot of light. And basically it's about embracing change. And my favorite lyrics within that is, the original face has experienced so much change, too many things we cannot predict quietly going by, embracing the future no matter how far, using a headshot to magnify each day. So I think that really applies to the current situation because while there is a lot that's out of our control, it's really nice to look ahead and think about what you want to do when it's over and just embracing the change that's happening now.
Emily, is that an old song or a contemporary song?
It's a contemporary song, but it's in Mandarin, so I translated it.
All right, thank you. And Finn.
Hi, I'm Finn. I'm a junior. My favorite word right now is dysphemism, and it's the opposite of a euphemism. So instead of a euphemism, it's when you use like a not very nice word or an unpleasant word to replace something that normally wouldn't be bad or unpleasant.
Can you give an example without being school inappropriate?
Well, you can, you're putting me on the spot. I hadn't thought this far.
You could say no.
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I don't have an example.
Okay. And how about your music?
Oh, my music. My favorite song right now is Born to Run by the American Authors. It's a really like upbeat song, and it always just kind of cheers me up and gives me energy when I listen to it. My favorite lyrics from it are "Shattered glass and black holes can't hold me back from where I need to go." And I think that's pretty relevant to these times, because I think the coronavirus and this is a really huge disruption in all of our lives, but we kind of need to get through it however we can and move forward and not let it like affect us in the future.
Okay. Well, thank you all for those intros. Throughout the rest of the time, I'll ask if anyone has a comment to start, and if not, I'll pick on one of you. But feel free. There's no order we have to go in. Obviously, no right or wrong answers. It's really what you're feeling, what you're sharing, what you feel comfortable sharing with this worldwide audience, if you will. But one thing I note today, Mrs. Bradley sent you an email right before we got started, and here's part of what she said. She said, "You were selected by teachers who like you and know you, so you are among friends." So let me reiterate that sentiment, and thank you again for taking part in today's panel discussion. I really appreciate it a lot. I have like 8 or 10 questions to ask. If I get through all of them, fine. If not, that's fine too. So let me start with one that relates specifically to giftedness, okay? And many of us who work, and I've done this work for more than 40 years working with gifted kids, and still do. As I said, I still teach 9th graders on a part-time basis, including tomorrow. But one of the things that we have in our field found is that many times gifted children, teenagers, and adults have what I would call intensity of emotion. That when you're happy, you are really happy. And when you're sad, it's really a bad place to be, if you will. And I'm wondering if, I mean, everyone has emotions, obviously, but do you find among either yourself or the gifted kids, you know, the gifted colleagues that you have, that this intensity of emotion is stronger, that when you feel something, it's at a greater depth or a greater height? And if the answer is yes, how have these deepened or heightened emotions manifested themselves during this COVID-19 pandemic that we've been suffering through for the past 2 months? It's kind of a 2-part question about the intensities themselves and then the impact on you, given our current situation.
All right, so I guess I can start. So personally, I would say that for my emotions, I usually have pretty neutral emotions, but I do have outbursts of being like really happy or really sad whenever that's the case. I can't really speak for anyone else for this though, but I know that during this current situation, I guess I have experienced that a bit. Like I felt like I've had more time to myself, so I can like really understand who I am, even though that seems very existential. And but in terms of emotions, I did like, for example, I called one of my friends at 3 a.m. and I was like crying at 3 a.m. But I think that was also like just the feeling of like wanting camaraderie, which is
Sure.
something that's not exactly easily accessible with coronavirus nowadays.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That's very, very honest reaction. And I'm guessing you're not the only one who's calling a friend at 3 a.m.
Yeah, going off of what Emily said, I definitely relate to having a lot of time to be by myself. And I'm a very extroverted person, and I think that I typically do feel very strong emotions, but I usually process those emotions by talking it out with other people and by sort of having connections with people and expressing my emotions that way. And so I think it's been hard to not have that sort of outlet. And I also feel like it's interesting because I think that at some points, also, you know, I feel like you, as a human, you can kind of get used to anything. And so, you know, I'll kind of be going along my day and it'll start to feel normal, this whole quarantine situation. And then maybe like once a day, I'll just have this point where I like question everything and I'm like, oh, wait, this is reality now. Like this isn't normal. It shouldn't feel normal. And I think that that kind of upsets me. But most of the time, again, like kind of what Emily said, I'm kind of fine. And then I sort of break down at some points.
Now, do you talk, when that comes up, do you talk to anyone at home or online about that? Or you just kind of keep it?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I have my brother and my parents and I, you know, FaceTime, call, text my friends, but it's definitely not the same when you can't really see
Sure.
very many people in person.
Yeah, and I'm going to pick on Anand because he kept, every time you were talking, he kept nodding his head.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with both of them that when we're by ourselves now, we're not really talking to many other people. So we're getting a lot more time to think about our thoughts and our emotions. And I try to go on a walk every day. And I think that's helpful to talk and talk with ourselves, not with other people, but understand our emotions and everything. I think for the first part of your question, I would have to say, I don't see myself as having extreme emotions compared to my friends or to people I know, but I think with the quarantine, we've been able to take a lot more time to understand where we're coming from and what our emotions really mean to us.
Yeah, I'm assuming that others of you there, I mean, you live in a beautiful part of the country. I don't know if we even said where you were, but you're in Boulder, Colorado. I'm in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So, you know, when we need to clear our heads, we just take a walk on the beach. And I'm sure you could, given the beauty of your surroundings, you can do the same. So to any of other of you, before we get to Finn, and who else didn't answer this one? Jamie, yeah. Before we get to that, do any of you have exercises that you do or something you do to just get this stuff out of your head? Walking around, exercising. Jamie, you're nodding your head. So why don't you answer that question and then answer this one at the same time?
So generally, I learned early on in like 4th or 5th grade that I'm very much like a kinesthetic learner.
Okay.
And I also like daily activity in my life is like how I process my day and how I like calm down and or energize myself, whatever's ahead. And I generally like do a lot of things. So I have a lot of energy. And I also have like, I'm a very passionate and like emotive person. So I think where everyone else said that they have like neutral emotions is what Emily said. I think I'm the very opposite of that spectrum. I'm kind of just very out there. And if I'm feeling something, everybody around me will know it. Thanks, Mom. For me, I'm also like a massive extrovert. So like I recharge by hanging out with people and everything. But I like my closest friends are both introverts, and one of them went to live with her dad on the other side of the state. So, sorry, there's construction happening in my house. We're getting our heating repaired. But I don't have I'm trying to quarantine myself to like a couple of my closest friends, but they're both introverts, so I don't see them very often. And so I find that I really have to like go outside and just process my emotions how I would normally do by like doing running challenges at 4 a.m. because I can't sleep and stuff like that. So I find that I'm spending a lot of time by myself, which I don't like, and I'm getting like really angry and frustrated about it, and my motivation is like rock bottom. And so I think my family is really tired of me, and my dog is really tired of going on daily walks, like 3 hours at a time. But yeah, I'm full of emotions, and I can't process them how I normally do, which is like through people and by distracting myself. I'm very much stuck by myself now, which I don't like.
I want to get to Finn next, but then I want to come back to something you alluded to, Jamie, about motivation. But we'll get to that after we hear from Finn.
I'd say that I've always been kind of on the, I've definitely always felt like pretty strong emotions, but I think I've also, my whole life, I've internalized them. I've never been a very like outwardly emotional person. If I'm having a good day or a bad day, people around me will not be able to tell, and I like it that way. It lets me deal with things myself, and I don't have to really worry about how it's affecting other people. And of course that can be a bad thing by like when something's going wrong in your life, if you're keeping it inside, it can lead to bad places. And I've gotten myself into really bad places from keeping things inside. But I'd say for the most part, it's helped me just kind of manage my emotions and not affect other people.
Has that changed at all during the COVID time or not?
I'd say if anything, my emotions have become like more stable during the COVID time. Like my life has really not changed all that much. Both of my parents work from home anyway. I rarely do like social activities outside of studying with friends. I'm a competitive rock climber, so it's really bothering me that I'm not able to climb, because you can't really climb by yourself, at least not outdoors, and all the climbing gyms are closed. But my life has really not changed all that much. It's almost normalized just because I go through the same routine every day.
Okay. Well, let me ask, going back to what Jamie said about motivation, that she said she's really lacking it right now. I don't know if you meant, Jamie, academically or in any other ways in addition to academics, but how is your motivation, or has it changed, not only for schoolwork, but just in general? Have you noticed any shift in that? And Jamie kind of started off, so anyone want to add to that?
I think I would agree with her that a lot of our classes, especially because we're seniors anyway, they tend to calm down a little, but especially with the quarantine, teachers haven't been able to assign us stuff and teach us. And during our school day, we usually have a routine and a schedule that we go along with. But now that we're home all day, we just lay around in bed and watch a lot of movies. So I think the lack of motivation has to do with that. We're not really required to do anything right now, and that's preventing us from doing things and taking opportunities. And yeah.
Well, you have a routine, but it's not the routine you're used to.
I don't know. I think I guess we would have a routine, but it's a lot more laziness.
There's a lot more open spaces.
Exactly. Yeah.
Emily, how about you?
Yeah, so I would say that for me, motivation, I have more motivation for topics that I'm interested in. For example, I really like math, so I've been like reading math in my free time, which sounds really weird. But for topics I'm interested in, I have a lot more motivation to go out and like try new things, discover new things. I've restarted like playing the violin, which I dropped a few years ago. But in terms of like subjects that I'm not that interested in, I don't really have that much motivation. So it's quite extreme. I have extreme motivation for some subjects and then none for others.
Is that new, or has that always been the case?
I think it's pretty new, honestly, because before, even if I didn't have that much motivation, like it would all be pretty neutral because I knew I had to get it done. Whereas now, especially since, as a not mentioned, we're seniors and teachers aren't assigning that much work, it just feels like I have more time to do what I like to do. So that also leads to lack of motivation in certain areas.
All right, understandable. Finn?
Going off of what Emily said, I really agree on the idea that kind of half of the subjects I'm really interested in, like science. I've been doing all of my science work for the week. The first day that it's assigned, I'm working on a science experiment as best I can with lack of resources. I've been really motivated to do things that I'm interested in. But on the other hand, you have subjects like history that I understand the need for in school, but I'm just really not that into. And this was going to be the last year that I took a history class in high school because I'd rather take 2 science classes next year. And I don't really plan on doing anything that involves history in the future. So I was really excited that this was going to be my last year of history, probably ever. And that's even like worse because the standardized tests that we take for history got canceled due to for my specific history class got canceled due to the coronavirus. So I have very little, like it's really difficult for me to find a reason to actually continue like trying in this class when I know I'm never gonna I'm not gonna build off of it in the future.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, I think you stated well what probably a lot of people are thinking, and a lot of people your age are going through, not just in Boulder, but really across the country. I've noticed with my own students, some of them are as sharp as ever, and others who I would expect to really be interested, not so much. And I'm not blaming them. I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying that it's a new reality for them, and it takes more than a couple months maybe to get used to it all. But I know something that, Finn, you talked about. This hasn't been a big change for you because your parents both work from home anyway. Have any of you felt something different? Like how have relationships at home changed because now you're together a whole lot more probably than you're used to being together? And don't say anything to get you in trouble with your parents. But anyway, has anything happened with relationships at home or even outside of the home that have really affected you?
For me, so I have a twin sister, and we're like the most opposite you could possibly get. And before quarantine, I would see her like in the morning for half an hour when we were both getting ready for school. And then I would see her for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes somewhere else in the day because I was always really busy, like with soccer and marching band and all my other activities. So I would just be like out of the house and I wouldn't see her. But we're both very volatile and we have both very strong emotions, both very stubborn. And so we expected to, like in kindergarten, we fought so much that from kindergarten to freshman year, there was like a policy in our records that we couldn't be in classes together because we would just like destroy each other. And so we expected there to be a lot more fighting than there is. We expected to like be at each other's throats and everything, but we haven't exactly. There's just like, as quarantine is continuing, we like the tension is rising slowly. We both, like at the beginning, we were both kind of like a neutrality, I guess you could say, of like, oh, we're here for an indefinite amount of time. We can't destroy each other on the first day. But there are definitely times where like, wow, you're still here and I'm still seeing you. Oh my goodness. And I have no break. You're one of like the 3 people I see on a regular basis. Oh, but yeah, maybe this is like that time when we finally come together and become friends. I don't know.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right, work it out. Good. Emily.
Okay, so I have a older sister and she's a college student. So she came back because of coronavirus. And because of that, I've been able to see her a lot more, which is pretty nice. But at the same time, as Jamie mentioned, being with your sibling too much can be like too much at times, like because there are definitely moments where because your sibling is someone who you can talk to about everything, it's like you can just fight with them sometimes. But my sister and I get along pretty well, so that's good. In terms of people outside of the family, I feel like my relationship with like close friends has strengthened a lot more because I just depend on them a lot more and I'm not a very social person. So like I don't really have a phone, I don't really contact people. So nowadays I've been reaching out to them more, which is pretty nice, and we've been in contact for a while.
Have they noticed the difference in you?
I'm not sure. I think so. My friends and I, we're all very scheduled people. So something that we started doing is we would schedule like calls on specific days at specific times every single week. And so because of that, I'm not sure if they noticed that like I like to talk more or something. Because it's all very scheduled, but I'm not quite sure to be honest.
Right,
I can help with that. Emily and I, now that I think we're both have been at home, we've been texting a lot more through her computer. So I would say yes.
So you have a friend here who's confirming something.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anand.
Okay. And Anand, since you spoke up, tell us about your relationship. What's going on at home now?
I think it's been pretty much the same. I think both of my parents and my brother and I too, we all don't stay at home that much. We'll just we have lots of obligations and we stay pretty busy. But now that everyone's at home, we're all kind of lazy. But it's different. Yeah.
All right. And Bella?
Yeah, I mean, I have a brother who's 7 years younger than me, so he's 11 right now, and I think it's been interesting because we both, are so different. We have entirely different lives, and I'm, like Anant and Emily and everyone else, I really like to keep myself busy, and so, during a normal school year, I'll have after school activities like every day, and come home for dinner. And then, sort of go off to my room to do homework. And so I usually only end up seeing my brother for about an hour every day. Like we lead very separate lives. But now that this quarantine has started, we've been spending so much time together, and it's actually really cool to sort of get to know him. And since both of my parents work full time, I've been helping him with a lot of his schoolwork, which is kind of cool. It's a different sort of aspect to our relationship that we've never really explored before. So
How old is he? Didn't say how old he was.
11.
11, okay.
Yeah. And also going off of what Emily said, I think my relationships with some friends have definitely changed. And I think it's a really good way to predict how things will go when a lot of us seniors leave for college. Because, you stay in touch with some friends and then others you don't. And I feel like right now I've definitely stayed in touch with some and not others. And so it gives me a good idea of who I'll be keeping in touch with in the long run.
Yeah. Let me focus this on the seniors. I know 3 of you are seniors and 2 of you are juniors. And I just heard today on the news that about 25% of graduating high school seniors are now choosing not to go to college for the first fall semester. How have your plans changed at all, or is there any anxiety about that? Or what's going on in your heads about college for those of you who are, I'm assuming, heading off or planning to head off?
So I guess I can start.
Yeah.
For me personally, I really want to start freshman year off with being physically on campus, because I really want to build those like in-person connections, which you can't really do over Zoom necessarily.
Right.
And so because of that, at least not myself personally, but I know there are a lot of people who were thinking about taking gap years if school was going to be closed for the first semester. And I thought about that a little bit too, because I really do want the human connection. At the same time though, my parents are like on the opposite end of the spectrum, because they're actually pretty worried about the current situation, and they're worried that it's going to like last longer than when school starts again. And so they were thinking about like maybe not having me take a gap year until the situation ends, which I don't really know where I stand personally right now. I think that I would be fine with going to school in the fall if it is physical or if it's virtual. But it's just, there's a lot to consider right now. And
yeah. Well, and too, a gap year does not mean it's a year off. It's a year doing something different. And I think that's sometimes not interpreted that way by a lot of folks. When they hear a gap year, they just think, oh, you just want to, hang out for a year. And that's really not it. So you can't just say, if I don't go to college I'll just hang out. There's something else that you'd be planning on. And usually if you're going to take a gap year, you think about it way ahead of time. It's not just something that's sprung on you, even if you don't want it. So I can understand your confusion and your kind of anxiety about that. Anat, how about you?
I think I have to say that I think all of us who are going to be attending college next year and will be first year students will all kind of be in that same boat. So even if we have to start online, I think if we end up going second semester, it'll kind of be shifted back where we're starting all of that second semester. So I think I would be fine either way. But I think that's just because it'll be the same in the sense that it'll be hard for the first semester. We'll still kind of be in the middle like we are now, of not having a proper ending or beginning. But when we all get back, everyone will be in the same boat. So that makes it easier.
It sounds like a very positive attitude that you have.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bella?
I definitely agree with Anat and Emily. I've thought about taking a gap year a couple of times since this all started. But I've been thinking a lot about, if I did take a gap year, what would I be doing? And there really aren't a lot of options right now, especially if the pandemic, sort of continues to the extent that it's impacting our lives right now. If that continues for the fall and next year, because, a lot of people, when they take a gap year, they like to travel or, pursue some sort of internship or research or something cool like that. And I don't think a lot of, companies will be hiring interns, or, there won't be a lot of opportunities to travel. And so, as well as even get a job, a lot of companies are sort of struggling to stay on their feet right now with the pandemic. So I feel like, for me at least, even if I had to do online classes, I think that would be the best option.
Okay. And Finn and Jamie, you still have 1 year of high school left, but have you thought of this? Has this entered your mind about what happens beyond next year?
I know that I haven't thought about like going to college yet, but like the applications for college, I'm concerned because they're canceling SAT and ACT testing left and right, but they haven't like sent out anything like, here's our plan. But to graduate Fairview, you actually have to pass a standardized testing like math and reading level. And because of my marching band schedule and my soccer schedule, I wasn't able to take the SAT yet. So I don't have like an official SAT under my belt. And also with the whole grading system, I think like a couple days ago, they finally said you can choose if you want to go pass, fail, or letter grade. But we're in the 5th week of online school. So there was like a month of the teachers didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing. Administration didn't know what we were doing. And it was kind of like, what are colleges going to think when they see my transcript and it's like pass? What does that mean? Like, do they think that I like got C's in everything, or think I got A's in everything?
Yeah.
And then like for the ACT and SAT, I had like planned like how I was going to study to like lead up to my tests, but then they're all canceled. And once again, my motivation is rock bottom. So I haven't like gotten back in the groove yet. But I'm just kind of concerned about like what the application process is going to look like. And also like if they have virtual tours of campuses. So I guess that's not as big of an issue, but I knew a lot of my friends had planned like to go on campus tours to like make decisions about where they're applying and everything. And they can't do that anymore. So
Right. Yeah. You've thought a lot about this, Jamie.
kind of, yeah.
Finn, how about you?
I'm in the same boat as Jamie. I didn't get the chance to take the SAT or ACT or any like big standardized test yet. And so, like Jamie said, colleges have not been that like forthcoming about what their policies are going to be. I think I've gotten one email from a college out of the like 15 to 20 that we get per day from colleges like trying to advertise. I've gotten one email, I think it was from Cornell, that said that they were changing their SAT ACT policy. But other than that, it's pretty stressful because not only have colleges not been that like a transparent, but also like Jamie said, our district was very slow to kind of announce what they were doing. And that, even though we have like kind of a resolution now, and we, like Jamie said, we get the choice between a grade or pass fail, it was very stressful because we were completely in the dark for a couple of weeks. And junior year, this is a pretty important time in terms of like proving ourselves in terms of grades and extracurriculars for colleges, and that's kind of being like taken away from us.
I will say, in defense of your district, that probably no matter where people went to school or where they are going to school currently around the country, it's the same thing. I mean, this whole virtual learning is as new to us as educators as it is to you. I mean, we might have dabbled in it a little bit, but to have it go on every day for as long as it's gone on, with right now no end in sight for a lot of schools, I think every school that I know of is trying its best to make it work, but it's tough when everything is so brand new to all of us. You know, I have as much empathy for the educators as I do for you, because we're in this together, even though sometimes it may not seem that we are. But yeah, the anxiety is there on all of your parts, and certainly as an educator myself, it's certainly there with me. Both, am I doing right by my own students in my teaching, and then I'm worrying about them as well. So it is a all in this together type of time, but it's. There's no prediction that this was going to happen for sure. Well, I'm going to change the subject for a little bit here, and I'm going to read two stories to you that were published last week in the New York Times. The article was titled "Amid Sadness, Stories That Warm the Heart," and they're real short, but let me just read a couple of them, and then I want to get your reactions to this. This is from a woman from New Jersey. She wrote this. As I bike through my suburban town, I am struck by the beauty of my surroundings. Aside from the seasonal explosion of magnolias and dogwoods, there was a blossoming of families that I've never witnessed. Could this act of social distancing actually be bringing us all together? For decades, I've lived in a suburb of New York City. People were rushed, schedules ruled, Work, sports, tutors, classes, the families in this affluent town had somewhere to be until now. Families now walk the dog all together or kick a ball in the yard. Neighbors gather on corners or at the end of a driveway, mindfully spaced from one another. The slow waves and smiles received as I ride by are comforting, even from those I've never met. Might this be a silver lining? With fewer cars on the road, the earth smells fresher. Mother Nature is getting a well-deserved break. When we're on the other side of this, I hope we remember to take a moment and appreciate the beauty all around us. And then this from a woman in California, Oakland, California. She said, a few days before Oakland went into lockdown, something strange happened. A giant crow began appearing at our living room window and peering inside, as if studying us. Considering that no crows, or any birds for that matter, have visited us before, I found it rather curious. Soon I began seeing two crows darting back and forth across the sky, gathering twigs to build a nest in the giant tree outside our window. Each time they left for long periods, I worried that they would never come back. A few days ago, I watched one of the crows sitting still in her nest, riding out fierce winds and rain that threatened to topple the tree, giving a whole new meaning to sheltering in place. When she flew off, I saw that she left behind a lone turquoise treasure, her first egg. These crows are a constant reminder that something, maybe many things, will be birthed from this dark time. Despite all of the negativity that we have experienced, is there anything that you've seen positive, either that you have experienced personally or that you've seen happen to other people during this time?
I think the kind of environmental aspect of the first and second stories is really important, but I just want to touch on the kind of the idea that this is bringing us together. Out my window across the street, there's a fire station, and they have giant paper letters put up across like the bricks that says, "We got this together." And I just think it's a kind of testament to the idea that even though this is really, really like messing up a lot of things for a lot of people, this is, a lot of people are sick, people are dying, we're like making the best of it and we're coming together. I've always been a really strong believer in the idea that the best relationships come out of the worst experiences. And I think this just kind of demonstrates how when we put aside our differences and we have like a common enemy in the coronavirus, we kind of have to come together, and we realize that as a world.
Thank you so much, Finn. Who else?
I've noticed that like when we go hiking in the mountains, there are like a lot more just families out together doing things, and they're kind of like together in a way that like I haven't seen. There's this one, I have a Portuguese water dog, his name's Al, and on the opposite side of the block there's another Portuguese water dog named Ipa, which is happy backwards. And and she's been living there, they've had her for like 4 or 5 years, and I've only ever seen like one person at a time walking her, but then every single day without fail I see them walking down the street all together, like all 5 of their family walking down the street. And I think there's like this camaraderie in going through a hardship together, with like neighbors bringing each other groceries, like, "Oh, do you guys have yeast? I don't have any yeast. Can I borrow some yeast from you?" There's no yeast in any of the stores. Or like, "Hey, I baked like 48 scones and I don't really want to eat them. Do you guys want them?" Kind of like supporting each other in a community together and spending time together that we don't have time for in like the normal busy lives everyone leads. I think that's kind of really special to see.
I didn't know about the yeast.
Yeah, there's no yeast. Can't find any yeast.
What they're running out of here in South Carolina are hair clippers and hair dye. There's a lot of retired people here, so I guess they got to keep their hair colored. And how about you? Have you seen anything positive about this?
Yeah, so I live on like a circle and there's a big cul-de-sac at the end. And one of the people who lives at the end, she turned 70 2 weeks ago. So the whole block got together and we all rehearsed this like simple dance to Dancing Queen by ABBA. And we all got in the cul-de-sac all like 10 feet apart and danced for her. And she was telling us how like she really appreciated it. And I think all of us on the street thought that if it was just a normal day and we were all going out throughout our lives, we wouldn't have had time, or no one would have taken the initiative to plan an event like that. But now that we have the time and we're all at home, we all are thinking about each other and doing things together, which is impacting all of us positively.
And as you said that, Bella was nodding her head.
For sure. I think I've noticed a lot of community involvement too, like everyone else has said, in my own neighborhood, people have been getting together from a safe distance, of course. And yeah, I always see quite a few people, walking their dogs around my house and in the park around my house. And it's really great to see people connecting like that.
Anything to add, Emily?
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with everything everyone has said so far. In Italy, they sing off their balconies at 8 o'clock p.m. every day. So our neighborhood, like they howl at 8 o'clock every day because no one can really sing. So they just start howling at 8, which is really fun to see. But also it's just, you really get to see the sense, like you really get to feel the sense of community. Like there's families that walk on the trail a lot more often than before, whereas before it would be like only the children would walk on the trail. And then there's also like my neighbor has this giant tree with a bird feeder on it, and in our neighborhood it's sort of like a grid system, so you can see there's like 4 families that can see that backyard. And it's really funny because every morning like people just talk to each other by opening up their windows and like looking at the squirrels chasing each other up the tree. So that's really nice. And also you really get to see like how the community physically supports itself too. Like my piano teacher recently got diagnosed with cancer. So recently, like all her students, our family included, like we've been going to her house and like disinfecting the gifts that we give her and then just like setting it on her front door, or like baking her food and then leaving it on the front door. So it's really nice to see all of this.
And you're finding yeast, right, Jamie?
A lot of yeast if you need it.
Those are all amazing, powerful stories. I just have a couple more questions before we end. And I'm not sure if you'd be able to answer this one. Maybe it's in the abstract, but maybe it's not. But there's a lot of people who are either watching this now or will be watching it all over the country, all over the world. If teenagers like yourselves are going through some real tough times, what advice would you give them?
If I could go ahead, I think that something that I definitely want to tell other teenagers is that it's okay to ask for help when you need it. I know that a lot of us are kind of struggling emotionally because we've essentially been ripped out of our normal lives, and that can be really hard. And it's okay if you can't, focus as much as you used to, or perform consistently as well as you used to in, real person school. Like if you're struggling, definitely, reach out to teachers, reach out to friends, because chances are other people are struggling too.
Great start. Thank you very much.
I'll
Ben, how about
second
you?
that.
Oh, Emily, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to second Bella with that. Just don't be afraid to ask for help, or in any situation, not just with the current situation, but with any situation. Like if you're going through a hard time because of academics or just something in your life happened, like don't be afraid to ask for help and talk to people in general about what you're feeling. I know that personally, I don't open up very well. But recently, like talking to a lot of my friends, like this 3 a.m. conversations, it's just, you really realize that whatever you're feeling, you're not alone, and that it feels like you're isolated in what you're feeling, and like you're the only one who's feeling the way you are. But at the same time, when you like talk to the people, you realize that everyone's going through the same thing. Everyone's felt the same way at some point in their lives. And so you just really get to like grow and also learn that you're not alone in whatever is happening.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Finn. Go for it.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Okay, I will then. I've also, a lot of my friends have put a lot of pressure on themselves to like do something with all the like the free time they have. But I think it's also important to just acknowledge the fact that this is like a global crisis and that it's okay to not be your most productive and like it's okay to not be your best self when the entire world is hurting. You don't have to be the best you all of the time. You don't have to put pressure on yourself to do like that project you've been putting off. Like you don't have to do everything now just because you have the time to do it. It's important to like take time for yourself and for your mental health, because I know that there's a lot of stress and anxiety in the world, and it's important to just center yourself and be okay with what you're feeling and who, like everything you're feeling is valid, and all of the emotions you have are valid, and the opinions you have are valid. You don't have to push yourself to be the best in a global crisis.
Adding on to what Bella and Emily said, I think right now it's really important that we're like still talking to people about mental and emotional health. It's really difficult to convey emotion over text message, and not as difficult, but still pretty difficult over a phone call. You don't get the whole picture when you're not with somebody. School, for better or for worse, is a really great way for us to connect with one another. And typically in person, you can tell if someone you're around constantly is going through some struggles or a hard time. Whereas now it's really difficult to tell. I know that I've gotten myself in a lot of trouble in terms of mental health by not being open with other people about what's going on inside my head. And I think it's just really important for everybody to realize that now it's difficult to tell what's going on with everybody more so than normal. So it's really important for people to not only understand that for others, but for themselves too.
Yeah, to make those, to strengthen those connections, it sounds like is what you're saying. Yeah. And Anand, how about you?
I think I would have to just agree with everyone. I really liked what Bella and Emily said about reaching out to other people and letting them know where you're at and just talking to them, because I think there's a lot of power in opening yourself up and connecting with others.
Mm-hmm. All right, time is short. Thank you. Your comments were profound. They weren't just good, they were profound. When life returns to some degree of normalcy, whatever that is, what are some of the first things you want to do?
So I saw this scholarship that I was going to apply for. It's not due yet, but they wanted us to list 3 things that we wanted to do once we get back to normal. And I don't know how plausible this would be, but I really want to go to an amusement park, if it's Elitch's here in Colorado, or if it's Disneyland in California or Florida, but I really want to go to one.
Good choice. What else? It's one of the first things you want to do.
I wanna go hug my friend, because I haven't like seen her. She's been my best friend since like first grade, but she's been quarantining in Palisade, which is like 5 hours away. And not, it's Ellie, in case you were wondering.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen her in like, I haven't like actually like really gotten to hang out with her in like 7 weeks. And I think the first thing I want to do is be like, Ellie, oh my gosh, how are you? And then hug her and hang out with her. Because I think I've been missing a lot of connection that I can't get just face to face via like Zoom. So yeah, I just want to hang out with my friends, see people I haven't hung out with in a while. Yeah.
Who else? Finn, other than rock climbing, Finn, what else?
Bella, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Anat and I were actually, we were talking about this the other day, but I think it would be really fun to take like a little road trip with my friends and sort of, go around the country and explore different like national parks and stuff like that. And just sort of, leave our town for a little bit because it's getting kind of claustrophobic for now. So a road trip would be fun, and then maybe go to a concert or something, because I had tickets for 2 concerts that I was really excited about that were unfortunately canceled because of this whole thing. So it would be fun to make up that experience.
I think we have Finn and Emily.
I think I can speak for a lot of people in that one of the first things I do is get a haircut. I don't think I've ever gone more than like 3 months without getting a haircut in the past like 4 or 5 years, and it's been like 5 months now. I shaved the sides of my head myself, but the top is getting way too long. I need a haircut.
My wife gave me a haircut 2 weeks ago, and my son, right after she did it, and she dressed me, she's not a hairstylist. The first thing he said to me was, he called me Patches. So it's grown in a little bit by now. Emily, what else?
I think I would have to agree with Jamie that one of the main things I want to do is just like go and hug my friends, and probably like go to a water park with my friends and push them into a pool or something, because I really miss I'm a swimmer, so I really miss the water, but I also really miss my friends and messing around with them. So that would be the perfect opportunity to do all of that.
And you know what, all of these things, we probably take for granted. 6 months ago, we would have taken these things for granted. And now it's almost a luxury when we can get a chance to do something so basic as a haircut, or ride an amusement park, or push a friend into a pool, certainly things that put a different perspective on life. All right, one last question. It's actually an activity that I did last year with my students. It was the last day of school, and we already had field day and everything was going on. It was probably the last hour of the school year, and we're in class. And I said to the students, we're going to do a writing activity. Well, they looked as shocked as like Martha Stewart at a middle school cafeteria. It was like, what? We're doing a writing activity on the last hour of school? And I said, yeah, but it'll only take 5 minutes. So I'm going to read to you what I asked them to do. I'm going to give you some of their responses. And then I want you to think for maybe a minute as to how you would answer these. And I'm just going to go around the way you're on my screen to have you just fill in the blank the way my students did. Okay. So here's what I asked them to do. I wanted them to answer these 2 questions. What gives you hope, and what gives you joy? And here are some of their responses. It gives me hope when I see a friend succeeding at something I helped them with. It gives me hope when I think of my parents still being alive when I am an adult. It gives me hope when I see a very biased person change his mind. It gives me hope when I see my mother going through so much and still being strong and never hanging her head in shame. It gives me hope when I see that only a few girls have someone to dance with them. It gives me hope when I see my grandmother and she still remembers who I am. It gives me hope when I see that another meal is on the table. It gives me joy. It gives me joy when I make a baby laugh. It gives me joy when I finish a good book and see the world from the eyes of a character in it. It gives me joy when I feel the hot summer air and know that my season of freedom has just begun. It gives me joy when people give me the kindness I deserve rather than treating me as if I am not popular. It gives me joy when I read Maya Angelou's poem, Phenomenal Woman. It gives me joy when I hear preschoolers singing their ABCs. It gives me joy when my brother gives me a ride to school happily with no complaints. And lastly, it gives me joy when I wake up on a summer morning, greeted by the sun, and realize that this day has the potential to be the best one of my life. So don't answer for about a minute, but just think of what gives you hope and what gives you joy. Jamie, can I start with you? It gives me hope.
It gives me hope that you can, in such a trying time, you can look outside and see people supporting each other in ways that we've never done before, but is so integral to like the human identity. I think that's cool. And
it gives me joy.
Gives me joy that every day, if I so chose to, I could go outside and hike to the top of a mountain and just be like, this is my world and I get to live in it.
Emily, it gives me hope.
It gives me hope to see during this difficult time my neighbors carrying their baby boy on their shoulders every single day and walking through the neighborhood. And it gives me joy to know that every single day, whether I like it or not, my sister will play the piano and we'll talk.
Finn, it gives me hope. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. It gives me hope just to simply see people helping one another and being kind to one another, regardless of what's going on. And it gives me joy to know that at the end of the day, this will all be over and it'll just be something in our past that we can remember.
Anat, it gives you hope.
I think it gives me hope to see that I can help other people and other people can help me. And it gives me joy that I can see other people smile and laugh.
Bella, gives me hope.
It gives me hope to see the fact that a lot of people are recognizing the hard work of medical professionals and other people who are doing their best to support people during this crazy time. And it gives me hope that we're not afraid to show our appreciation. And it gives me joy to see, to sort of be able to step back and appreciate the beauty of nature sometimes and see that, you know, even though we're struggling with something right now, nature is still sort of holding up and not everything is completely, you know, gone awry. So.
Okay. I'm going to answer it too, but I need to leave for about 5 seconds, maybe 15. Okay, so stay there. I want to show you what gives me hope and joy. It's 30-second delay. This is who gives me hope and joy right here. This is my grandson, Wyatt. Say hi. Yeah, and he's been with us now for 5 weeks as they escaped New York, he and his parents. And that it's just so good to see him eating crackers and looking at people like you who he'll someday grow up to be. In about 17 years, he'll grow up to be people just like you. So anyway, hope and joy. He smells like crackers and peanut butter, and he needs to leave. Okay. Anyway, we're just about to end, and I wanted to see if you had any last words you wanted to share with the audience that we have. Any last words? Well, then let me thank you all. And again, I want to thank Mrs. Bradley, Terry Bradley, and Dr. Linda Silverman for setting this up. I wish you all well. I wish you all safety, and I wish you hope and joy. Thank you very much for being a part of the panel today. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.